And good morning, and happy Shinran's birthday. Today we observe, sorry, I need to switch mouses here. Today we observe Gotan-e, the honorific birth gathering. That is to say, a special service to commemorate Shinran's birthday. So happy 848th birthday, Shinran Shōnin. So normally this would be a major service, a really important major service of the formal rituals, ceremony, chanting of the Shoshinga in the special Gyofu style. The ministers would be wearing the formal robes and sharing the story of Shinran's life, which is recited in a very special style and can last for hours and hours if you read the whole thing. Well, hey, I'm happy to do that on request. I got lots of time. Would you like me to read the life of Shinran right now? Raise your hand. No takers? Nah, okay, no worries. It's actually quite beautiful. It's a very beautiful recitation. And Makoa Honganji actually has the book in its own box on the table that we place next to the altar to Shinran. You can't see it because the box is actually behind the bell here. But we do have the Godensho, the honorable story of his life. But today, I'll just give you the abridged and illustrated version of the life of Shinran. So Shinran Shōnin, the founder of the Jodo Shinshu Hongwanji tradition, lived in Japan of the 12th and 13th centuries. Shinran was born Matsu Wakamaru, son of Lord and Lady Arinori, who were of noble birth, and Lord Arinori was an executive in the regional government. So at age 9, Shinran receives Tokuto initiation as a Buddhist monk, as a priest. And it is said that Shinran arrived in the middle of a moonless night, when the only light was a single candle. When the chief priest suggested putting off the Tokuto initiation rites, which include shaving one's head, it is said that Shinran penned this poem. Remember, this is at age 9. The heart that believes there will be a tomorrow, how like cherry blossoms, which may be blown away by sudden storm in the middle of the night. Shinran Shōnin, founder of Jodo Shinshu at age 9. For the next 20 years, Shinran trains, studies, and practices as a monk on Mount Hiei, at the monastery at Mount Hiei, which literally was the Harvard, Stanford, MIT of Japanese Buddhism in the 12th century. By all accounts, Shinran excelled in his studies and is recognized for his scholarship, dedication to ritual practice, and the mastery of rites and rituals and ceremony. But at age 29, Shinran's not happy. He has not found the spiritual truth that he seeks. So he begins a daily pilgrimage from Mount Hiei to Rokkakudo in Kyoto to seek guidance. This is the equivalent of doing a marathon, by the way. On the 95th day, it is said, Prince Shotoku appears before Shinran in a vision and tells him the truth that he seeks is taught by Honen Shōnin, the founder of the Pure Land School of Buddhism in Japan, also known as Jodoshu. Shinran meets Honen and finds the liberation that he seeks in the Nembutsu and the Jodo Shinshu teachings, and becomes a disciple of Honen and a follower of the Nembutsu teachings. Now, the Nembutsu is so disruptive to the established Buddhist institutions of the time. The Nembutsu practice, the Pure Land school, is banned by the government, by the imperial government. And Honen, Shinran, and other disciples were stripped of their priest status, their status as priests, as monks, and exiled from Kyoto. They were exiled from the capital city. But at least they escaped execution. A number of Honen's disciples were actually beheaded for a variety of things. So Shinran finds himself cast out into the real world, where he continues to share the Dharma of Amida's compassionate vow to save all people and living beings, but now as neither monk nor layperson, and as a peer equal to his honorable friends and fellow practitioners on the path of Nembutsu. So, you don't need any temples. No temples. Oops, sorry, let me move things around. No temples, no fancy robes, no raised platforms. Shinran's message of Amida's great compassion, Namo Amida Butsu, as the path to becoming Buddha for all people, regardless of social class, wealth, influence, or status. This was revolutionary, and Shinran gained devoted followers wherever he traveled. Shinran, always the rebel, was also the first priest, the first monk to become married and have children openly at a time when monks theoretically avoided all sexual conduct. At the seminary in Japan, we learned that actually the reality was very different. But, at least openly, monks did not get married, they didn't have sex, they didn't have children. Surprised how there's hereditary lineage of the chief priests at some of the temples. How does that happen? Doesn't really matter. So Shinran does get married. And this, of course, is Eshini, who we commemorate for the BWA memorial service on Eshini and Kakushini Day. So Buddhism is no longer just for monks. Right? The path to becoming Buddha is open to all people without discrimination or judgment. And Shinran travels from region to region sharing the Dharma. And in his later years, Shinran returns to Kyoto to complete his magnum opus, the Kyogyo Shinsho, and continues to write commentaries and hymns and letters to his followers, who also traveled to Kyoto, which at the time was not a trivial matter. And they traveled from the Tokyo area, the Kanto area, to hear Shinran's words. At the age of 90, Shinran passes from this world and is born into the Pure Land, becoming one with Amida, becoming Buddha, and returning to this world in oneness with Amida to share the teachings. So it's kind of ironic that we would traditionally have a major service and a grand ceremony to commemorate Shinran's birth, because Shinran himself would not have liked that idea. Shinran, sorry, looks like I'm on the wrong slide. Shinran was incredibly self-aware and brutally honest about his shortcomings. Quote, "I am such that I do not know right from wrong and cannot distinguish false and true. I lack even small love and small compassion, and yet, for fame and profit, enjoy teaching others." The words of Shinran Shōnin, which you can find in the Hymns of the Dharma Ages, is verse number 116, Collected Works of Shinran, Volume 1. So it's ironic that the original Otani Mausoleum, the Otani Honbyo, became a destination and a place of veneration for Shinran's followers. And this is the origin of the Hongwanji Temple, the Honzan, in Kyoto, and subsequent growth of the Hongwanji organization to the largest Buddhist denomination in Japan, essentially the Hongwanji that we know it as today. It all comes from this, which is highly ironic, right? Because when Shinran was asked where he should be buried, he is said to have replied, "Throw my body into the Kamogawa River and let the fish feed on it." It's a very famous story, because at the time, particularly for a religious figure, for the aristocrats, for the nobles, etc., the funeral ceremonies were incredibly elaborate. So for Shinran, right, who is recognized as a religious leader, to say, "Throw my body into the river and let the fish feed on it," is rather remarkable comment. So why is it that we venerate Shinran so much? Why does Shinran get to have his own altar space? Because the life of Shinran is a shining example of the life of gratitude, as they say in the BCA. That Jodo Shinshu is about living a life of gratitude. So think about it. Right? So Shinran continued sharing the teachings by meeting with people face to face, not in a temple, but wherever there was space available, sitting at the same level as just whoever came to listen. So he continued his teachings and writings unto his death in this gratitude, in profound gratitude for the spiritual understanding he saw. And yet, he was also constantly aware that he was hopelessly egocentric and motivated solely by his craving for fame and profit. Shinran never intended to create his own school, to have his own disciples, or a huge following and big ceremonies. He simply tried to share the joy of the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, with everyone he encountered. Shinran treated everyone as his equal, honorable fellow travelers and practitioners on the Nembutsu path. Shinran would not like elaborate ceremonies, me wearing my fancy robes, or even a birthday cake. Shinran was always about sharing the true and real Dharma of the Nembutsu with anyone and everyone as his equal, as his peer, and as his friend. And this attitude of Shinran is reflected in the words of Namo Shōnin, who is considered the great restorer of the Hongwanji tradition. So 8 generations later, Namo Shōnin is the chief priest and revives the Hongwanji, bringing it back from declining membership, temples closing, and lack of interest in the Nembutsu. Does that sound familiar? And Shinran's words say, Namo Shōnin's words say, the prosperity of Jodo Shinshu does not lie in showing off with large gatherings. If even a single person gains the faith of Shinjin, this is a true sign of prosperity. So then Namo Shōnin in the 15th century. And so, today, we simply say, Mahalo Shinran, we love you. Happy birthday. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. The essence of Shin Buddhism, as taught by Shinran Shōnin, is the faith of Shinjin, Amida's great love and great compassion, transforming our all too human hearts and minds, so that we are empowered to respond in gratitude to life as it unfolds naturally. Just say mahalo. Mahalo for listening this morning, and may your day be filled with aloha. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.